And he's really been a different type of pope because he has criticized the excesses of capitalism. And that's where we bring in Dr. Robert Moynihan, who is the founder of the magazine Inside the Vatican. He's also the author of Pray for Me, the life and spiritual vision of Pope Francis. Robert, thank you for joining us. This is an exciting moment. What's going through your heart and mind right now?
Well, I do think it's an important moment for the Pope, the first trip to America. America, in many ways, the leading country in the world, the leading capitalist country, although some of our capitalism has subsided under recent governments. But he's a Pope who comes from the southern part of the continent of Latin America, speaks Spanish, became the first Pope from Latin America, and now he's coming to America. So I think it's an important historical moment.
Oh, absolutely. And as we witness a pretty exciting greeting here, America is really waiting on tenterhooks to hear what he has to say. There is a belief that he will give this anti-capitalist message. It's almost a preconceived notion about the Pope, but when he touches down, and he does take the microphone tomorrow in Washington, D.C., and Friday in New York, what do you think he's really going to say?
Well, he's got three major addresses that he's making. One is to Congress in Washington.
Right.
He does meet tomorrow at the White House with all of those guests that Obama has invited. Mm-hmm. But the real important address is the next morning, Thursday morning, at Congress. Then he flies that same day up to New York, and then he speaks at the United Nations. That's the second great address of this meeting. And then he comes to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is having a world meeting of families right now. And actually, I've been involved with preparing for that, and it's quite a large gathering at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. He will come and celebrate Mass in Philadelphia, and he will give an address and a homily at that Mass that will be sort of the capstone of this trip.
Well, we need to point out he's also going to do a Mass at Madison Square Garden, where the likes of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, the Eagles, Ed Sheeran have taken the stage. So he's going to really hold a huge number of people's attention there. And, of course, at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The security in D.C., Philadelphia, and New York is epic, at epic levels, because this is a huge event. And, you know, when you think about the approval ratings of this Pope, he's actually, as I understand it, in the U.S., he has a 59% approval rating, Robert. So when you look at that, it seems that there is popularity there, definitely, correct?
Well, I do think young people really like him. I've been told by my son that university students who are not Catholic are very interested in Pope Francis. So there's a kind of a buzz about him. He's the opposite in this sense from Pope Benedict XVI, who, as a German and an introverted man, as a theologian, was unable to touch the people in the crowds the way Francis is. I've been in Rome often. Francis will stop his Pope-mobile. He'll take a baby. He'll hug the baby. It's almost the political Pope. In terms of his message, and of course we neglected to mention also in Washington the great Mass where he will canonize Junipero Serra.
Of course.
Tomorrow afternoon, which is controversial in some ways. The message that this Pope is bringing really is a message of breaking out of preconceived parameters and legal restrictions. He's really trying to speak as a pastor and as a messenger of the gospel. And this is the motivation for him to try to say, to meet people where they are, to dialogue with them. He's not going to refuse to go to the White House.
Sure.
The Vatican was not informed by the White House of the guest list. And but the Pope meets everyone, and I think the first word that comes to mind with him is dialogue. And I also think it's important to know that this Pope had a personal religious experience that's at the root of his spiritual life. Mm-hmm. And he was about 16 years old in 1953. He went into a confessional in Buenos Aires to confess his sins, and he came out of the confessional, knelt down, and he felt somehow the forgiveness of God descend upon him.
That was the moment, I believe, that he decided to give his life to the church. And the story goes that his mother wasn't too thrilled. She didn't want her firstborn to go into the laity. But in the end, she decided, of course, to support him. And he has taken it all the way to have been granted the position of Pope. As the plane pulls up here, any minute we should be seeing President Obama, who is getting ready to greet him. We also don't want to ignore the markets. You know, interestingly, we have had a sell-off today, but we are well off the lows as Pope Francis lands here. I'm not making any connection. I'm just saying we're down 187 points. We had been down 288 points. We are going to keep all those numbers up on the screen as this historic moment plays out. Sir, I would also like to ask you as well about going back to this issue of capitalism. Having lived in Argentina, he, of course, had to go through what was a very difficult time, the economic crisis of 2001-2002, where he worked heavily in opening soup kitchens and schools and drug rehab centers. This just as the state there was cutting back. He really cared about the people there, but what he saw was crony capitalism in Argentina. Perhaps that has colored his view, and he doesn't quite understand the capitalism that we have in the United States, one of the most generous countries where we turn around and dispel our riches upon poorer nations. We are one of the most, if not the most generous country. Do you think he gets that message?
I think he does, and I think he's going to generate real warmth to America and to the American people. What you just said is absolutely correct. In his personal life in Argentina, he felt that the crony capitalist system that they were living in had created two great crises where people's bank accounts were closed, people suffered tremendously, and he would go through the poor sections of the city. He would see kids without hope of getting a good job, and he said, this system isn't working. I do not believe that he is against a productive system where people have respect for their work and produce and can have an honest living. And I think he's been very kind to me. He's invited me into his home, the Doma Santa Marta, and I've had dinner there myself.
As I understand it, you actually saw him microwave his own dinner. Is that correct? He's a very down-to-earth guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the few people who microwaves his food there, and he stands there for a few seconds waiting for it to heat up.
Dr. Robert Moynihan, Inside the Vatican magazine founder, it is a thrill to have you, especially at this very important moment.